Alright guys, today we're going to do section 3 of unit 3 and we're going to start writing functions. Using a table to write an equation is going to be our objective today. We're going to determine the relationship between the x and y values and we're going to write an equation. So what we need to do is, how do we get from 5 to 1? So 5 minus what equals 1? So you all should be able to do this mentally. Okay? So 5 minus 4 is going to give us 1. So our computation here is minus 4, or 5 times what equals 1? Well, we can solve this like an equation. So 5 times 1/5, these are additive inverses, equals 1. So now that we have decided what we think the relationship is, we need to test it on more than one value, okay? So we have 5 minus 4 equals 1. Check. So let's do the next value. 10 minus 4 should equal 2. Well, 10 minus 4 is 6. So that's not true. So this is not our relationship. Now let's try our next one that we have here. 5 times 1/5 equals 1. Check. Let's check the next one. 10 times 1/5 equals 2. Check. Let's check one more. 15 times 1/5 equals 3. Check. So then here's our relationship. Our relationship is that we multiplied by 1/5. So now we can write the equation. So the equation is y equals 1/5 times x. Or you could also have y equals x over 5. Either one is okay. Alright, determine a relationship between the x and y values and write an equation. Alright, so I like to set mine up in the xy table. Okay, so remember your first coordinate is your x, your second is your y. So our x values are 1, 2, 3, 4. Y values 3, 6, 9, 12. Okay, so let's see, how do we get from 1 to 3? So 1 plus what? Let's use n here so we don't get confused. 1 plus what equals 3? You can do this mentally. So we think the relationship might be a positive 2, or 1 times what equals 3? Or it could be multiplied by 3. So let's check. 1 plus 2 equals 3. Check. 2 plus 3 equals 6. Not true. Okay? So now let's go over to our multiply by 3. 1 times 3 should equal 3. Check. 2 times 3 should equal 6. Check. So, what's our equation? Our equation is that we're taking x and multiplying it by 3. Okay, the input of a function excuse me, is our independent is our x. The output of the function is our dependent. our y. Our y value depends on our x value, what we input for x. Okay, the value of the dependent variable depends, or is a function of the value of the independent variable. So we're going to identify the independent and dependent variables in the situation. All right, a painter must measure a room before deciding how much paint to buy. Okay, so dependent, independent. All right, independent means it stands alone. What stands alone is the measurement of the room. Okay, dependent is the amount of paint. Why? Well, it depends on the measurement of the room on how much paint you're going to buy. Smaller room, less paint. Larger room, more paint. Okay, I'm going to abbreviate now and do D and I. Okay, the height of a candle decreases D centimeters for every hour it burns. Okay, what do you think? Okay, dependent is the height of the candle. It depends on, the height of the candle depends on how many hours the candle burns. Okay? Okay, a company charges $10 per hour to rent a jackhammer. Okay, let's not look at this. All right, so identify the independent and dependent variable in the situation. Okay, a company charges $10 per hour to rent a jackhammer. So the dependent, the cost depends on what? On how many hours you're going to use the jackhammer. Okay, now I want you to make this chart. I want you to remember that your independent is your x, which is your domain, which is your input, okay? And then your dependent is your y, which is your range, which is your output, and you can also write that as a function of x. Okay, suppose Tasha earns $5 for each hour she babysits. Then 5 times x is a function rule that models her earnings. If x is the independent variable and y is the dependent variable, then the function notation for y is f of x. You read this, f of x. The dependent variable is a function of the independent variable. Okay? So what this is saying is when you have y equals 3x, you can also write that as f of x equals 3x. All right, so identify the independent dependent variables, write an equation and function notation for the situation. A math tutor charges, excuse me, a math tutor charges $35 per hour. Okay, so the charge depends on the time. So charge is going to be our dependent, time is going to be our independent. okay? And let's define our variables. So let's let H represent hours. So F of H equals 35H. Now, how did I get this, guys? I just wrote the equation, okay? The equation would be 35 times hours is going to give us, excuse me, our output, our Y, okay? So instead of using Y, what we want to use is our F of H, or F of X. Okay, let's do another one of these. Let me check our time here. Okay, identify the independent dependent variables. We're going to do the same thing. Okay, a fitness center charges $100 initiation fee plus $40 per month. Okay, so our dependent, the total cost depends on what? Well, you pay $100 up front no matter what. Okay, and then it's $40 per month. So our cost, which is going to be our dependent, depends on what? It depends on the months. Okay, so I kind of already gave you a start of the equation. So cost is going to be your initial fee plus your $40 times your month. So we want to write this using function notation. So F of M equals 100 plus 40M. Okay, to save on time, we're going to skip number 7. And let's go ahead and talk about this little function here. You can think of a function as an input-output machine. Here's your machine, okay? For Tasha's earnings, f of x equals 5x. If you input x, so right here you input your x, and when you substitute the number in for x, your output comes out as your y value. Input x, output y. Just a good visual there. All right, let's look at 8 here. Evaluate the function for the given input values. Okay, so here's my function. F of x equals 3x plus 2. So what you're going to do is you're going to substitute these values in for x. So for my first one, f of x is 7. Substitute 7 in for x, and then simplify. So f of 7 equals 23. Then we're going to substitute -4 in for x. And then simplify. Okay, I'm going to stop because I'm going to run out of time, and we'll do a part 2.